Hello, I am Dr. Rajshree Chatterjee, Associate Professor, Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Jagannath University, Jaipur.
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to start with the topic conflict of ethical values. Here I'm going to discuss how corruption and conflict of interest stalk the newsroom from the Ethical Journalism Network. An international journalism watchdog identifies the problems with journalism in 18 countries. It also lists the five main sources of Indian media. India's news market has 82,222 newspapers. Delhi alone has 16 dailies in circulation. It has close to 800 television news channels, an industry that has almost trebled between 2006 and 2014. Added to that, there are 124 million broadband internet connections and 1,500 state owned, privately owned community radio stations. Of this far from monolithic industry, the authors of the report India chapter A.S. Paneerselvan says, I am acutely aware that of the nearly 1 lakh professionals in journalism, a substantial number of individuals and institutions uphold the core values and the cardinal principles of journalism. The exceptions are in the minority, but its number sufficient to color the popular perception and to undermine public interest. If the five deliberating problems in the Indian media are not fixed, then India's new boom will be worthless to journalism. Writes Paneer Selvan. Even worse, it will be of no value to India's more than 1.2 billion people, who may have more infotainment, sensationalism, and political spin at their disposal, but who will remain ignorant of the facts and analysis of events around them. When that happens, the world's largest democracy will be seriously weakened. Let's start with the very first issue, paid news. Paneer Selvan, who is also editor of The Hindu, traces the origin of the unethical practice of paid news back to the liberalization of Indian economy in 1991. With market forces at play and public investment in private companies, journalists found it sometimes lucrative to write only partially true stories of the companies waiting to list on the stock exchanges. The mid 2000s saw business schemes that swapped ad spaces in newspapers for equity in companies, and as documented by journalist Mrinal Pandey. Many of these went belly up. During the 2008 assembly elections, Hindi dailies published stories about candidates who had no particular news value, even predicting record victories for them. In 2003, Bennett and Coleman and Company Limited, publisher of the Times of India, started a paid content services to send journalists out to cover events for a fee. The second issue is opaque private treaties. Another questionable BCCL scheme involved private treaties by which a company would allot equity to BCCL in return for ad spaces. The report says P. Sainath was one journalist who exposed the nexus of political and corporate entities in the news media through such schemes. In October 2008, in the midst of the stiff opposition of the government granting permission to trial runs of genetically modified crops, the Times of India ran a story about how no farmer suicides were reported from two villages that has switched to GM seeds. The same story was later published in August 2011, followed by a barrage of advertisement by GM giant Monsanto Biotech India. The 2011 reprint with a frantic lobbying response to the government's failure to table the GM bill in Parliament, says the report. Next is blatant blackmail. In 2012, senior editor of the television channel Z News were arrested for allegedly demanding rupees 100 crore from Jindal Power and Steel Limited. In return for the payoff, they offered to dilute their network campaign against the company in the coal scam. The blackmail was exposed when JSPL chairman and Congress MP Naveen Jindal conducted a reverse sting on the network's executives. Next point is widening legal regulatory gap. The Press Council of India has dragged its feet on addressing paid news and other unethical practices. According to the EJN report, in April 2003, a photojournalist tripped the council off on the practice of advertisements being published as a news for a fee. Instead of investigating the matter, the council merely asked media companies to consider how their credibility is affected and issued guidelines they should follow to distinguish news from the advertisement. Let's go ahead to the next one. The PCI also failed to act on a damning report produced by journalists Paranjay Guha Thakurta and Krish Srinivas Reddy on the immunity of the media using paid news. Instead of publishing the report, the council chose to keep it reference material because it could dent the image of media houses. The report came into the public domain only later based on a right to information petition. Lastly, flawed measurements of audience reach and readership. The yardstick to measure the reach and impact of Indian media are dubious at best, the report says. The EGN report cites the example of an Indian readership survey of 2013, which claims that the readership of English newspaper fell by a whopping 20% without attributing any reasons to the fall. Moreover, the survey found that the English newspaper in Nagpur, Hindwara, didn't appear to have a single reader while it had certified circulation of more than 60,000. Television ratings also failed to tell the real picture. Ratings consultants are paid off by television channels to tamper with the system, and they do so in ingenious ways. New news TVs are gifted to homes in which the supposedly secret meters are located, and residents are told that they can watch anything on it as long as they are turned into certain channels on the TV connected to the meter. So, according to this topic, we have discussed 5 major problems that are being practiced by Indian media. There could be many, but these are the major ones which are actually concerned regarding the media ethics. Although there is still and there is always will be a scope for media for improvement, but these are the 5 major points that need to look after immediately with immediate concern. Thank you.